You know, across the vast, often frozen landscapes of Russia, something enormous is taking shape. The country is building some of the most ambitious, most challenging engineering projects on the entire planet. But as we're about to see, these are so much more than just incredible feats of concrete and steel. They're actually strategic instruments designed to reshape global trade, energy, and power. So let's dive in and take a look at the colossal heart of this whole ambition.
And at the center of it all is this beast. It's an oil platform that stands defiant against the most brutal forces the Arctic can throw at it. I mean, this thing operates in a region with crushing ice, monstrous waves, and violent earthquakes. It's basically a city in the middle of a frozen sea, a monument to human ingenuity pushed to its absolute limit.
So that just begs the question, right? When you're building a structure that has to survive conditions that would tear a city apart, where do you even begin? How do you possibly engineer something so immense, so complex, that it can just laugh in the face of nature's worst fury?
Well, to figure that out, we've got to go inside the largest oil platform on the planet, the Berkut rig. Its name means golden eagle in Russian, and its scale is, well, it's almost impossible to get your head around. So let's try and break this thing down piece by giant piece.
Okay, so first up, let's just talk about weight. The entire Berkut platform weighs a staggering 200,000 tons. To put that into perspective for you, imagine the weight of over 1 million adult elephants. So yeah, this isn't just some structure. It's basically an artificial mountain of steel and concrete planted firmly on the seabed.
All right, so it's heavy, but how tall is it? From its base on the ocean floor all the way to the top of its derrick, the Berkut platform stands 144 meters tall. We're talking about the height of a 50-story building just sitting out there in the middle of the ocean.
And this really helps you picture it. If you've ever stood near the London Eye and looked up, you know how massive that thing is. Well, the Berkut platform is even taller. It's a true skyscraper, but it's one that has to deal with forces that a land-based building could never, ever handle.
And get this, that 42,000-ton number, that's not the whole thing. That's just one part of the rig. It's the weight of the topside module, you know, the upper section with all the equipment and the living quarters. It's the single heaviest topside ever installed on an oil rig anywhere in the world.
Want another way to wrap your head around that incredible weight? Picture 280 blue whales, the largest animals on Earth, all stacked together. That's the mass that had to be built in a shipyard in South Korea, transported all the way across the ocean, and then lifted precisely into place on top of the rig's base. I mean, the logistics of that are it's completely mind-boggling.
Now, you don't build something this massive just for show. It's built this way out of sheer necessity. It has to survive in one of the most punishing locations on Earth, the Sea of Akhataysk, right off Russia's Pacific coast. So let's take a look at exactly what it's up against every single day. First off, this rig is built directly on an active tectonic plate, which means it has to withstand earthquakes that could level entire countries. It faces waves the size of a 6-story building, and for months on end, it's surrounded by thick, crushing sea ice. And all this happens in temperatures that can drop to 44 degrees below 0 Celsius. So how on earth did they build a machine to fight back against all that? Well, the answer starts with its foundation. The Berkut is a gravity-based structure. And instead of using complex anchors or pilings driven deep into the earth, the idea here is actually brilliantly simple. Just make the base so incredibly heavy that gravity alone pins it to the seafloor, making it immovable. And the construction process was just as extraordinary. First, they built that 160,000-ton concrete base on land. Then came the terrifying part, towing this colossal structure out into the open ocean. Once it was in the exact right spot, they flooded its hollow compartments, sinking it slowly and precisely onto its designated place on the seabed. And only then could that record-breaking topside be installed. But here's where the real genius comes in: how it handles earthquakes. See, the topside doesn't sit rigidly on the base. Instead, it rests on special sliding bearings, which act like giant knee joints for the whole platform. So when the earth shakes, the base moves with the seabed, but the entire upper part can slide slightly along these bearings. That movement absorbs the seismic vibrations, stopping the destructive energy from traveling up and tearing the structure apart. And to protect the vital pipelines, they're fitted with flexible rubber cuffs, allowing them to shift without rupturing. It's just a really elegant solution to a brutally powerful problem. So the Berkut rig is an engineering marvel, no doubt. But it's not an isolated one. It's really just a single piece in a much larger puzzle, a whole constellation of Russian megaprojects. And they're all interconnected,
all part of a grand national strategy to assert influence on the world stage.
This quote here perfectly captures what's happening. The engineering is impressive, yes, but the ultimate goal is strategic. It's all about using these projects to become a leader in energy, in transportation, in technology, you name it.
And this strategy extends far beyond one oil rig. We're talking about massive liquefied natural gas plants up in the Arctic, unlocking huge energy reserves. It's about forging a whole new global shipping lane through the melting ice of the Northern Sea Route. It's about a 3,000-kilometer pipeline to reroute energy flows towards Asia. It's a state-of-the-art shipyard to project power at sea, and high-speed rail to shrink the vast distances of the country itself. Each and every one of these projects is a piece of that much larger puzzle.
So what happens when you put all these pieces together? Well, you get a strategy that's designed to fundamentally reshape global markets and the balance of power. This is a long-term vision, and it's already having a major impact.
Take the Northern Sea Route, for example. For centuries, global trade has relied on choke points like the Suez Canal, but by developing a viable shipping lane through its Arctic waters, a route only made possible by climate change, Russia is creating an alternative that could seriously cut shipping times and costs, and that would place it right at the center of a new global trade artery.
Then there's the Power of Siberia pipeline. This 3,000-kilometer giant is more than just an energy project. It's a huge geopolitical statement. It represents a massive pivot eastward, diversifying Russia's energy exports away from traditional European markets and building a deep, strategic energy alliance with China, one that could reshape the global energy landscape for decades to come. And backing up all of this maritime and Arctic ambition is a revival of Russia's industrial base. This quote from an economic expert points to the Zvezda shipyard project. The claim is that Russia's shipbuilding pace has now accelerated past that of the U.S. That's a development aimed squarely at building the icebreakers, the LNG carriers, and the naval vessels they need to secure and exploit these new strategic frontiers.
Which brings us full circle. When we look at projects like the Burkett rig or the Northern Sea Route, what are we really seeing? Are they simply incredible feats of human engineering, or are they actually something more?
Well, the answer, of course, is that they're both. They are absolutely monuments to our ability to build impossible machines in impossible places. But they are also calculated, powerful instruments of a national strategy. Every single ton of steel and every cubic meter of concrete is being used to build not just infrastructure, but influence.
And so we're left with one final, crucial question. As these pipelines are completed, as these new shipping lanes open, and as these massive platforms continue to pump oil from the Arctic seabed, they are actively redrawing the map of global power. The question for all of us is, what will that new map look like?